Episode 3, The Last of Us. Just finished watching it, and here are my immediate thoughts, my stream of consciousness on the episode. So, I didn't go into it knowing too much. All I knew was it was the Bill and Frank episode, which makes a lot of sense when you see it. So, there's no way for me to discuss this without spoilers. So I'm just going to discuss it as if you have seen it. The main characters are Bill and Frank. It's very fascinating what they've done. They have taken a bit of a detour from the game, in that when you go to Bill's town, you do pick up these letters and artifacts and read about him and Frank, and you kind of get an idea of their relationship. I can't remember it thoroughly, but they've kind of altered it, I think, a little bit, in the sense that in this episode you start off with Joel and Ellie, who are now, of course, just now them two, as we know them in the game, just them two going on their journey. You know that they're going to Bill and Frank's, and then it shows the story of Bill and Frank. I've said Bill and Frank a lot now already. It shows the story of Bill starting from when the pandemic happens up until current day, in terms of where it is in the show, and it is very, very intriguing. One of my favorite parts of the episode, something that could have been its own episode, could have probably been its own show, and I would have watched it. So when the pandemic hits, the army takes people away, I guess, to safety. So the town becomes empty and isolated. And Bill stays in the town. He has a bunker under his home. And he's already a kind of well-prepared prepper type survivalist, I think, as he calls himself. Once everyone's left, he goes out and about and just takes everything he can from the Home Depot. He gets petrol from the petrol stations. He goes to like the power pump and turns on his gas or water. He starts cutting wood, preparing meat and food and veg. He starts to build his fence. It is amazing watching that. I mean, that could have been its own episode. I would have happily just watched Bill. No dialogue, just Bill putting together his town. Like, it was a really good part of the show. What happens is Frank falls into one of his traps, and that's how they kind of meet each other and start to bond and get along. And the episode is their relationship about over 20 odd years, living through this world and building a home, building a relationship, spending time together. And Frank eventually interacts with Tess over the radio, and so you do see a scene where Joel and Tess meet Bill and Frank a few years after the pandemic has happened, which is a really good scene. Joel and Bill's chemistry is really good. And then it just continues on until the end of Bill and Frank, which you will see how it happens. And then the kind of episode ends with Joel and Ellie getting the supplies that they need and can get, and carrying on their way. It was in a season that's 9 episodes and has quite a bit of story to get through. I thought it was a very brave decision to focus it on 2 different characters who we hadn't even met yet. It wasn't like we knew them in the first few episodes. But I thought it was very poignant and very, very well done. And I'm still kind of thinking about it live as I do this, and it's like that episode was showing that you can build a life in this world. You can build something with other people, or at least another person. Like, love is possible in this world. And I don't know if that's going to tie into, Joel's end decision of what he does in the hospital. As we all know, whoever's played the game, you all know what happens. I don't know if that's going to be, tied into that kind of Joel thinking, it's better off that Ellie lives and we enjoy our time together. In this episode, now that Tess is kind of not there anymore, there's definitely more development between Joel and Ellie. Kind of Ellie asking him questions non-stop in that way that kids and teenagers do. Joel's character in the show is a a bit of a slow burner. Like I feel like it's building up, and we'll see some big moments from him. But all in all, a really good episode, and I think so far, it now being 3 episodes, all 3 to a certain extent feel quite distinct from each other, like quite different. A third of episode 1 was the normal world that we know of pre-pandemic, an intro into Joel and Tess's world and Ellie's introduction. Episode 2 was Joel, Ellie and Tess, and definitely really introducing clickers and a bit more of how it works with the clickers and how this all came to be, actually, with the intro to episode 2. And then episode 3 is this quite intimate story, actually. It's almost like a mini world within the greater world that Bill has built in his town. So I really like how each episode is very distinct, and I didn't realize that at the end of each episode they do a kind of preview of what's coming up, and I think each week my girlfriend reminds me to watch this and I always forget, so I don't know what's coming up in episode 4. But we have seen glimpses of hunters, or I presume they are the hunters, so that faction that you get in the game. So I think we're going to see them soon. It kind of makes sense. We've had Joel and Ellie and Tess take on clickers, so it'll be interesting. And Joel, I think in this episode, implies when he's walking along and Ellie's like, what are you worried about? What are you looking for? Clickers? And he's like, no, people. So he knows that out here where they are now, this part of America, there will be hunters and stuff and people attacking people. So I feel like that's going to be in episode 4. It makes sense because I think that's what happens in the game. So yeah, all in all, I'm enjoying this show very much. It's full of surprises, and it's a refreshing look on a game that we all know very well and had high expectations from. And they're doing it their own way, which I really like, adapting it well to a TV show format. The acting's been really good, and it's just been so impressive watching certain things from the game come together in real life with real people and real sets and special effects and everything. So yeah, really look forward to episode 4. Hope you're enjoying the show, and I hope you're enjoying my rambling thoughts on a Monday night about each episode. Thank you for watching.